Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and today I'm going to be reviewing Bismarck Solitaire, a book game from Worthington Games. Alright, so here we have Bismarck Solitaire. This is, I think, the first game book actually in the Worthington game book series. I've previously reviewed Waterloo Solitaire on this channel, but Bismarck Solitaire is about the Bismarck, which was a German boat during World War II. Basically what's going to happen in this game is we control the Bismarck, the Prince Eugen, and a U-boat, and we go around the map trying to search out and battle and sink British ships, and they're trying to do the same thing to us. So I'm going to show you how that works in book form. When you open up this book, you get a table of contents, and the game rules are coming up, but if you look at the contents, you're also going to notice there's one training cruise, but then there are actually only 8 missions, and there are 3 copies of each mission in the book. So what's happening there is that some people are going to want to do things like scan or make copies of the maps in order to preserve these books for longer. Other people just like to write on the book, and so Worthington thought of that when they printed this. And there are 3 copies of each mission so that you can essentially have 3 clean sheets to work on without worrying about making any copies or scans or anything like that, because multiple attempts are built into the book. That does mean that there are only 8 missions, but you're going to lose sometimes. Maybe you'll succeed the mission, but you won't get the special medal at the end, and you're going to want to try again anyway. So trying again is built into the structure of the game, including how the book is printed. I've been using a tablet to play, so I'm going to show you what my tablet looks like, but give me a moment before we get there. So once again, we have all of the rules. I don't like this horizontal format very much because it's irritating to read, but all the rules are there. It is fairly convenient and simple, and they're short, which I can't complain about. After you finish the rules and you get some design and historical notes, you're also going to get a little example of play. And there are some things missing from this example of play that I wish had been put in, but I'll get to those in the final thoughts. For now, let's actually have a quick look at the game so you can get a sense of whether it's for you. So here's our training cruise, and I don't want you to freak out when you look at it. It looks like there's a lot going on. It's a little crazy, but actually it's not so bad. These grids up here are things that can happen based on die rolls and where your boats are located. And then this lower page is your actual search grid. This is where you're going to be moving your boats. There's a turn sequence of play to remind you what to do. You get health information about each of the ships that could be involved in the game. And then here you actually get some battle tactics, because this game actually includes a little bit of variety in terms of how you choose to press and attack during ship combat. This training cruise is super simple. You're basically just trying to sink any British ships that you encounter and then get safely back to port. It tells you how to win right here. You need to return the Bismarck to either Bergen or Brest, which are safe ports, after turn 15. On each of these games, the game will automatically end after turn 20, so you definitely want to meet your goals before turn 20, or else you won't be victorious. However, the goals get a lot more complicated as you go, so let's just flip forward. So for this mission, it's open season on convoys, and you're trying to engage and attack all convoys and enemy ships without discretion. Your goal for this one to win is to earn 5 or more victory points, and then return the Bismarck to Bergen or Brest after turn 16. You also get a medal if you sink 2 convoys. So basically, this mission is more complex. You have more of a specific goal, and there's also different conditions for winning, and then winning with special honors. But let's go back to the simple training cruise. I'm going to show you how I like to do this, so maybe you get a sense of what you would want, especially if you have an iPad. So basically, here's my iPad. What I did was take a scan of this page down here, and then I put it in Notability. And now, with Notability, I can make and erase notes with my Apple Pencil, so I can basically play this game and then clean it up and have a clean copy anytime I want. So basically, as part of setup, you get to put the Bismarck and the Prince Eugen in row A, somewhere between columns 5 to 8. I could put the Bismarck here, and the Prince Eugen can start in the same spot and just write B and P, and then the U-boat can start anywhere in columns 1 to 4. So let's say that I want to just put my U-boat here, just kind of creeping off the coast of Iceland. So now that I've started with where my guys are, I can start a turn. So why don't I just walk you through a turn so you can see about how things go. So the turn sequence is going to be over here. I just keep the book open and the iPad on the book while I play, although I could shrink things down and see it here. I like to have a nice big play space, and then if I damage stuff, I do it down here. So you roll 2 dice to determine the event chart used for the turn. They recommend you use a white die and a black, but let's just use a blue and a black, and we'll roll them. So in this case, we have a blue 6. We'll say that's the white die, and then a 2. So basically what will happen is you're going to go to whatever the white 6 options are, and then the 2 is going to tell you which of the events you're going to do. So this is actually pretty rough. This is event heavy cruisers. Roll 2 ship combat dice, apply hits on 1 to 3 to the Bismarck or to the Prince Eugen. And I know that this is going to impact me because I'm actually in the part of the grid that this covers. So the main thing to note is that different things will happen depending on what your die roll is, and depending on where you are on the map, nothing's going to happen at all. So if I want to go on a convoy hunt, I want to be down in this part, hoping to get a die result like this, so that I can get into combat with a British ship and hopefully sink it. If I'm trying to hide out up here in the top corner, I can have some rough weather, but if I'm over here, the rough weather won't impact me at all. So basically, you need to be looking at these, thinking about what you're kind of hoping will happen in the game. If you're trying to coast safely, you might make different choices than if you're trying to get into it with a British ship. And you're going to choose kind of what you think your odds are of getting certain die results and place your ships accordingly. So basically what's going to happen now is we're going to resolve our heavy cruiser attack. The U-boat's just kind of cruising into the water and hidden, but the heavy cruisers are going to attack the Bismarck and the Prince Eugen. Since it says we can apply hits to the Bismarck or the Prince, then we're going to get to choose. So let's just roll these 2 dice. So actually, we lucked out because it only hits on a 1 to 3. So we have a 6 and a 5. Nobody got hit. No damage has to be applied. But if it had been applied, we would have come down here and checked it off on these boats. So we're going to come down here and talk about this in just a moment. Then, now that we've resolved our event, if there were air attacks, we'd resolve those. If there were U-boat attacks, so the U-boat gets to kind of torpedo people from afar, we would resolve that. There is no ship combat. And then we get to move our ships and mark their location. So a lot of this game is just moving your ships around as cleverly as possible. And then you'll mark the turn and repeat the sequence. So each of these can move a different distance. So let's have a look over here. So the Bismarck can move up to 2. The Prince Eugen can move up to 3, and the U-boat can move 1. You have extra fuel barrels that you can use 1 per turn in order to kind of juice your move up just a little bit more if you really feel that you need to do that. There is an event that takes away all your extra fuel, so don't sit around it for too long because you'll probably lose it. So let's say that I want the U-boat to come here, and then I want to move the Bismarck and the Prince Eugen just down a couple. So I could do that. And then that would be my move for the turn. We'd mark off that turn 1 happened, and we would keep going. So rather than turn this into a long tutorial, basically what I want to do is show you the rest of this page. I'll just show it to you on paper. So I've shown you how I use an iPad to mark my movements up here, but basically you have different information about ship power. So we know how many attack dice a ship can roll based on that red rectangle to the left of each ship. We know how many hits a ship can take based on these little squares here. So basically every time a ship takes a hit, you mark it off on your page. And here we have German ship movement. These green circles are the victory points that each of these ships is worth when you sink them. So basically most of the information you need is on the page. As for ship combat, basically what happens is if you happen to roll an event where you encounter another ship, they see you, you see them, and you get into a combat. The Germans get to try to hit first, then the British, but basically what will happen is that everybody rolls dice according to their attack power, and you allocate hits based on who is there. So for example, if we only came across the HMS King George V, and I had the Bismarck and the Prince Eugen together, then the Bismarck and the Prince Eugen would both hit this ship, but the King George V would attack the Bismarck. If you were in a 2-on-2 ship combat, then the first ship will attack the Bismarck, the second will attack the Prince Eugen. And if for some reason there are 3 attacks, it'll go Bismarck, Eugen, Bismarck. If the Bismarck is by itself, then it's going to take all of those attacks, and you want to be sure that you're careful, because the Bismarck can take a lot of hits, but if you lose the Bismarck, you lose the game. The other thing that's sort of interesting about battle is that you also get to choose tactics, so you can choose to close in, which can be a little bit risky, but it also gets you an extra die. You can go long range, which protects you a little bit more, but you lose some firepower. And In every round after the first, you can try to evade and end the battle. So you roll to do that. Maybe you escape, maybe you don't, but you can try. The British ships will also attempt to escape once they have less combined strength than you do in a combat. So this can look a little bit complicated, but really all you're doing is moving ships around the grid, hoping to encounter or not encounter various events that you can roll on each turn, resolving those events, and making some strategic choices when you're in combat. And then usually at the end of the mission, you want to get the Bismarck and hopefully the Prince Eugen as well back to one of your safe ports in Bergen or Brest. All right, so now for some final thoughts. Bismarck Solitaire is very good fun, and I actually really enjoy it. To be frank, I enjoy it more than I enjoy Waterloo Solitaire, and I think I know the reason why. What I like about Bismarck Solitaire is that you're moving around. It's a less static game. I enjoy trying to creep across the map, trying to avoid areas that I know are dangerous, maybe being tempted by those same areas if I want to take a shortcut or if I want to go for broke. And I really enjoy trying to decide where my different ships should be. So, do you want to keep the Bismarck and the Prince Eugen together as you normally would, or do you want to split them up for higher risk, but maybe the potential for greater glory? There's a lot of good dramatic fun to be had just sort of slinking around the search grid and hoping for the best when it comes to die rolls. I also really like that even though the game is a book, it has a lot of drama and excitement to it. I really love that in combat you get to choose if you want to just have normal combat, close in, or go after someone at range with various consequences for that. And I like the frustration and satisfaction of hunting down a ship, maybe across multiple turns, and then finally sinking it. This game also is good about encouraging you to keep trying if you don't do amazingly the first time, because you might get the victory points you need to win, but you don't fulfill the medal condition, or maybe you do get a medal, but you want to try for a different ship, or you just want to try something different. This game gives you space to try the game multiple times, and it gives you the motivation to kind of keep coming back and trying something new. So overall, I really think Bismarck Solitaire is an excellent solo game, especially for something that is just so simple and so portable. Is it the deepest game in the whole world? No, but it's a really good time, and that really good time is made with so few components that I really can't help but be impressed. That said, there are things about it that aren't perfect. One is that because events are controlled by die rolls, you could have a whole bunch of turns in a row where nothing really happens, and that's just part of the game, but it can also get very frustrating if you get too many rolls in a row where it's not even that, the whole fleet is on you and you're in danger, because you kind of knew that could happen if you go to certain parts of the grid. It's more when things keep happening that don't affect you at all, and your whole turn is just moving somewhere else and hoping something exciting will happen next time. Generally, it doesn't get that bad, but the fact that there are kind of a lot of wasted turns doesn't always do it for me, especially if it happens a lot over the course of a single game. The other quibble I have with this one, and I got it worked out, is that the rules for ship combat, it just took me a second to understand what they meant. So basically for combat, if the Bismarck and the Prince Eugen are together on the search grid in the same grid, then they can take on a ship together. But if they're in the same zone, only the Bismarck engages in combat and nothing happens to the Prince Eugen. And having to read those instructions a couple of times frustrated me, mainly because it would have been really easy to provide a combat example. They actually have a detailed example of play before you get to the actual games in the book, and it would have been nice to have a detailed example of play that showed off some of the trickier stuff instead of only the obvious easy stuff that I already got from reading the rules before I ever got to the actual game. So, I just reread everything a couple times. I got it figured out. It was fine. The rules are, in fact, all there. The information is all there. So you'll get there too, but I just saw a missed opportunity to make something even easier and more accessible, and it, mildly irritated me. And the other, it's not a complaint, it's more of a taste issue about this game, is the fact is you are playing a Nazi boat. And if you don't like to play World War II Germany, you're not going to enjoy this game. So unlike Waterloo Solitaire, where you play both sides, some as Napoleon and some as his opponents, you always are the Germans in Bismarck Solitaire. You're always in favor of the Bismarck. And there are little thematic elements of the book that really play that up. So this sounds stupid, but even the fonts, they're very Nazi Germany-tastic in this book. And the medals that you win look like some memorabilia that you'd feel really uncomfortable finding in your grandpa's attic. Did that stop me from enjoying this game? No. Did it stop me from buying and playing this game? I mean, obviously it did not. But if that makes you uncomfortable, that's something that you need to take into account when you pick up this game, because even like the little font and like graphic imagery choices really remind you who you're gonna be in this particular game, and you need to be sure going in that that's gonna be fun for you. I will admit that there were times when I felt maybe mildly uncomfortable playing the game because I was thinking about who I was playing as. But overall, I really enjoyed Bismarck Solitaire. I thought it was a really good game. I would actually like to see more games in this system, maybe with like Pirates or Star Trek or, anything that kind of involves being a ship, hunting other ships in a grid, because I thought that this system actually worked really well, and I think that you could probably do more with it because the game book was such a good start. So if you're looking for a portable, relatively cheap solo game that has some excitement and some sneaking around and some dramatic die rolls, then I think that Bismarck Solitaire might be a really good choice for you. I personally really enjoyed it. Of the two Worthington book games I've played so far, Waterloo Solitaire and Bismarck Solitaire, I think it's the more fun of the two, and I liked both. And I'll be looking forward to more from this series, and might be about to go check Amazon for some more of these books. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, support me on Patreon, anything that'll help make my channel grow. But most of all, happy gaming.